Everyone knows that we have a serious problem with plastic, but what's less talked about is the effect that this has on humans. Many just assume it's a problem for nature and marine life. Sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. To fully understand the problem that single-use plastics pose, we need to understand what they're used for and how much we produce each year. Single-use plastics are used in a range of products, from food packaging to cosmetics. Globally, we produce 300 million tonnes of plastic per year, and roughly half of this is disposable. One of the most obvious products that's received the most press are plastic bottles. Around 13 million are used every year in the UK, but only 23% of them are recycled. Similarly, plastic bags have also contributed towards the problem, with the US going through around 100 billion per year. The final and perhaps most surprising example is coffee cups. Whilst you think they're made out of normal paper, they actually have an oil-based polyethylene plastic lining, which is hard to separate from the paper shell. This means that they're very difficult to process and recycle. In Canada, 4 billion Starbucks cups are sent to landfill, with just Toronto going through 1 million per day. The impact of marine and ocean life has been devastating. Around 90% of the world's seagulls now have plastic in their stomachs, and there is a massive patch of plastic floating in the Pacific Ocean, which is now double the size of Texas. The main problem, though, is not from these larger plastics, it's from what happens after they've been in the ocean for a certain amount of time. They degrade down into smaller versions of themselves and not into biodegradable elements, so instead become these things called microplastics. These are particularly dangerous because they can even enter humans through the air we breathe and seafood. Microplastics have also been discovered in bottled water. Testing carried out by Orb found that of the 259 bottles they tested, 93% contained microplastics and microplastic particles. The bottles tested were from major big brands like Evian, Nestle Pure Life and Aquafina, and they originated from all over the world. So one of the solutions that many think of when it comes to plastics is just to recycle them, but it's not always that easy. First of all, filmy plastics like those found on top of fruit packaging or sandwich boxes can't be recycled and go straight to landfill. For the harder plastics that can be recycled, they can only be recycled 3 or 4 times and then they become unusable. They are unlike glass and metal, which can be infinitely recycled. There's very clearly a problem with plastic and the environment. Clearly what needs to happen is all plastic needs to be banned and other packaging alternatives need to be explored and used. There are certain few countries around the world who are taking the initiative, such as Costa Rica, where by 2021 all single-use plastics have been banned. It's very difficult to find alternatives, especially in supermarkets where products such as vegetables and perishable goods have to be kept fresh, but it can be done and more effort must be made. This is shown because London's first completely plastic-free supermarket opened in Hackney recently and is still going strong. Larger companies are also starting to change their ways, with Iceland promising to be plastic-free in all of its own brand products by 2023. They claim that they've already saved 850 tonnes of plastic waste.
Absolutely, already. I don't tend to buy things with plastic. I will pay more. So yeah, we were to reduce the plastic and then end up paying more. Hold on. Yep.
I mean, we can find a new solution instead of using plastic. For sure, there will be something new because we have a problem with that. For sure, 100%.
Yeah, no, I can't afford to be paying out more money for my food and stuff, you know, like, it all sounds a bit punchy to me, mate. I just want the stuff as cheap as I can get it, and that's it.
Therefore, the question must be asked whether or not plastic and single-use plastics are just a problem for wildlife and our oceans, or whether human health is really at risk too. As seen from the bottled water and consumption of seafood, plastic really is a direct threat to humans. And if we want to survive as a race and not end up like 90% of the world's seagulls, we need to change our ways, and fast. The attitude of, well, it's just a problem for wildlife and so why should I care, cannot possibly still exist, and it is now down to all of us to make a difference and save the planet.